the world of organized crime, where loyalty is currency, few were richer than John Philip Cerone, known to history as Jackie the Lackey. He ruled by a combination of fear and obedience. From Chicago boardrooms to Las Vegas casinos, Cerone served as the outfit's quiet instrument, present where power needed a steady hand, and absent when questions were asked. He spoke softly, listened carefully, and never forgot who truly wore the crown. This is the story of a man who wielded immense influence without ever claiming the throne. A loyal soldier, a trusted emissary, a shadow moving at the edge of history. This is Jackie the Lackey Cerrone. Welcome back to James on the Mob. I'm James Jenkins, your host and narrator. In this episode, we cover Jackie Cerrone, a man who never reached for the throne. The nickname, the Lackey, was a misnomer. In the clandestine hierarchy of the outfit, being a lackey, a chauffeur, was the ultimate apprenticeship. Cerone didn't just drive, he listened. He sat in the front seat while the graybeards of the mob debated the fate of the city. Cerone's life spanned the most volatile and lucrative periods of the Chicago Italian-American criminal experience, ultimately defined by his roles as chauffeur, enforcer, underboss, and acting boss. His legacy is inscribed in the brutal enforcement tactics of the 1960s, the sophisticated gambling rackets of the 1970s, and the multi-million-dollar casino skimming operations of the 1980s that eventually led to the systematic dismantling of the Midwest crime families. Jackie Cerrone was born on July 7, 1914, in Chicago, the eighth of 11 children to John Cerrone Sr. and Rose Vallant. His childhood was spent in the shadow of the outfit's first great consolidation under Johnny Torrio and Al Capone. His formal education was shortened. He dropped out of school in the 6th grade around the age of 14, a decision that essentially funneled him in to the city's thriving street-level criminal economy. Jackie was not the only member of the family to enter the underworld. His brother, Frank, Skippy Cerone, also became a significant figure in the outfit, eventually overseeing gambling operations in the Melrose Park area. This transition into the street-level criminal economy led him to the 42 Gang, a notorious juvenile street crew on Chicago's West Side. The gang was a training ground for future outfit leaders, including Sam Giancana, Sam Teets Battaglia, and Fiore Fifi Buccieri. During the 1930s and 40s, Cerone established a formidable criminal reputation. His early criminal activities often centered around the West Side, with addresses such as 2210 West Ohio associated with his sphere of influence. During this period, he transitioned from a street thug to a reliable enforcer, eventually gaining the notice of outfit heavyweights like Paul Ricca and Tony Accardo. A defining element of Cerone's personal life during these formative years was his courtship and marriage to Clara Agnes Russo. Born on February 13, 1917, in Chicago, Clara came from a background that stood in stark contrast to Jackie's brutal street life. The courtship between the street-tough Jackie and the refined Clara represented the outfit's broader mid-century attempt to achieve suburban legitimacy. The couple married in the late 1930s or early 1940s and had 3 children. While Jackie spent his nights in wire rooms and social clubs, Clara managed their domestic life with a level of sophistication that allowed the family to eventually transition into the elite neighborhood of Elmwood Park. By the 1940s, his rap sheet already boasted over 20 arrests for armed robbery, bookmaking, and embezzlement. But his real career began in the early 50s when he was appointed as the personal chauffeur to Anthony Joe Batters Accardo. Driving Accardo from his 22-room English Tudor mansion at 915 Franklin Avenue in River Forest provided Cerone with a master's degree in criminal administration. He wasn't a servant, he was a protege. This apprenticeship period allowed Cerone to internalize the administrative style of Tony Accardo, a man who had served as Al Capone's bodyguard and was considered the boss of bosses for nearly half a century. Accardo's leadership was characterized by a move away from high-profile street violence in favor of more stable, long-term rackets, such as loan sharking and labor union infiltration. Cerrone's early duties involved more than just transportation. He managed logistics and acted as a reliable liaison for Joseph Joey Dove's Aiuppa, another senior figure with whom he would later share leadership. Cerrone's ascension to the elite circle of the outfit was visually captured in a historical artifact known among researchers as the Last Supper. This photograph, taken in 1976 at the now shuttered Sicily restaurant on the 2700 block of North Harlem Avenue, features the organization's top 10 leaders of the era. Cerone appears alongside Accardo and Aiuppa, representing the Graybeards, the established veteran power structure that would oversee the outfit's peak years of influence. While Cerone learned the business side of crime from Accardo, he never lost his appetite for street-level enforcement. By 1961, he had established himself as a feared gunman. That reputation was cemented in August of 1961 during one of the most horrific events in gangland history. William Action Jackson was a 300-pound loan shark and enforcer. The outfit mistakenly suspected he had struck a deal with FBI agent Bill Romer. On about August 9th, a team consisting of Jackie Cerrone, Fiore Fifi Buccieri, James Turk Torello, and the psychopathic Mad Sam DeStefano kidnapped Jackson and took him to a meat rendering plant on the south side. For 3 days, Jackson was subjected to a ghoulish ordeal. He was suspended from a meat hook, beaten with baseball bats and ice picks, and burned with blowtorches. According to gallows-humored chatter, later intercepted by the FBI, it was Jackie Cerrone who contributed the idea of using an electric cattle prod on Jackson's genitals and anus. Jackson died of shock. On August 12th, his body was found stuffed into the trunk of his own Cadillac, abandoned on Lower Wacker Drive. While no one was prosecuted for the murder, the FBI later intercepted surveillance tapes where the enforcement team was heard laughing about the torture. For Cerone, the Jackson murder proved he was a leader who wouldn't just order a hit, he would participate in its most brutal details. The 1962 plot to assassinate Frank Esposito in Florida represents a significant intersection between the Chicago outfit's labor racketeering interests and the dawn of intensive federal electronic surveillance. This event, which occurred during the syndicate's winter season operations in Miami, provided the Federal Bureau of Investigation with critical intelligence regarding the outfit's internal mechanics and the specific roles of high-ranking members like John Philip Jackie Cerrone. Frankie the X Esposito was a powerful Chicago labor leader, serving as the head of a city and county workers' union, specifically associated with the Labor's International Union of North America. While Esposito was a significant figure in the Chicago labor landscape, he had apparently fallen into disfavor with the outfit's central leadership, then led by Sam Giancana. By 1962, the outfit had issued a contract on Esposito, seeking to remove him from his influential position and seize control of his union interests. During the winter months of the early 1960s, many Chicago mobsters relocated to South Florida to oversee gambling interests and enjoy a no-shooting period of social interaction with other crime families. For the 1962 season, Jackie Cerrone rented a cottage located at 8325 Southwest 72nd Avenue in South Miami, Florida. But unbeknownst to Cerrone, Attorney General Robert Kennedy had authorized the placement of electronic surveillance bugs in various mob hangouts and residences across the country. The FBI successfully bugged Cerrone's Miami residence, which allowed them to monitor the daily conversations of the organization's primary enforcers and administrators. On the afternoon of February 11, 1962, the FBI bug at the South Miami residence captured a detailed discussion regarding the logistics of the Esposito murder. The participants in this planning session included a cast of the outfit's most notorious enforcers, who had also been involved in the murder of William Action Jackson, Jackie Cerrone, Dave Yaris, Fiore Fifi Buccieri, and James Turk Torello. The intercepted dialogue revealed the team's frustration with their inability to isolate Esposito. The team discussed a plan to kidnap Esposito and murder him as soon as he returned to his own residence. Jackie Cerrone, in his administrative capacity, oversaw the formulation of these plans and provided the secure environment where the conspiracy was discussed. A primary hurdle for the hit team was Esposito's constant proximity to John DeArco, a Chicago city alderman and known political tool for Sam Giancana. At the time, Esposito was spending most of his time basking with DeArco in the Miami Beach area. While the killers had no personal affinity for DeArco, hitting Esposito while he was with a sitting alderman presented immense logistical and political problems that Cerone and his team had to navigate. The intelligence gathered from the bug in Cerrone's residence was deemed an emergency priority. To prevent the homicide without exposing the existence of their clandestine bugging operation, the FBI shared specific intelligence with the local sheriff in Miami. Local law enforcement took immediate, overt action to disrupt the killers' movement by increasing police presence around the target and shadowing the suspected members of the hit team. The local sheriff effectively made it impossible for Cerone, Yaris, and Buccieri to carry out the murder without immediate detection. As a result of this intervention, the homicide was successfully prevented and Frank Esposito survived the 1962 season. The Esposito hit plot was a landmark case for the FBI Special Investigative Division. It demonstrated that electronic surveillance could provide preventive intelligence, allowing the government to save lives rather than simply investigating crimes after the fact. Furthermore, the surveillance of Cerrone's Florida residence provided information on other outfit methods, such as the use of plants, hidden compartments in automobiles to conceal shotguns and murder paraphernalia. And although no one was prosecuted for the Esposito conspiracy at the time, due to the then unresolved legal status of bugging evidence, the details of the plot remained in Jackie Cerrone's permanent FBI file. It further established his reputation as a ruthless operator who was equally comfortable managing sophisticated union takeovers and coordinating brutal hits in the suburbs of Miami. In 1967, following the imprisonment of boss Sam Teets Battaglia, Jackie Cerrone stepped up as acting boss. He oversaw the outfit's massive interstate gambling network, which was generating upwards of $400,000 in weekly wagers. The heart of this operation was the Angel Kaplan Sports News Service at 236 North Clark Street, owned by Donald the Wizard of Odds Angelini. This office provided the betting line to bookmakers across the Midwest. This era also introduced a man who would become Cerrone's greatest liability, Louis Lou Bombasino. In April 1965, while awaiting trial on a robbery charge, Bombasino reached out to the FBI. For 2 years, he worked as a double agent. He took bets out of an apartment at 4355 South Sawyer Avenue and later 6955 West Grand Avenue, all while documenting the inner workings of Cerrone's empire. Cerrone was overconfident, and at a meeting in Armand's Pizzeria in January 1967, Cerrone told Bombasino not to worry about the police because he knew a judge who could fix any case. But the fix didn't work. In 1970, based on Bombasino's testimony and betting records, Cerone, Donald Angelini, Joseph Ferriola, and Dominic Cortina were convicted and sentenced to prison. Cerone became the third consecutive outfit boss taken down by the FBI in less than 5 years. In the world of the Chicago outfit, there is no statute of limitations on betrayal. After his testimony, Lou Bombasino was relocated to Arizona under an early informal version of the Witness Protection Program. He lived as Joseph Nardi at 201 West Hermosa Drive in Tempe. But Bombasino couldn't help himself. He sold heroin, played high-stakes poker, and eventually sued the local sheriff's department for $4 million after an equipment theft charge was dropped. This lawsuit likely exposed his location because in the lawsuit, he reverted to his real name, Bombasino. On the morning of October 6, 1975, at 8:30 a.m., Bombasino walked out to his leased Lincoln Continental. He backed up just a few feet when a military-grade plastic explosive molded to his car rear axle detonated. The blast was so powerful that it blew the windows out of nearby homes and sent metal debris flying a quarter mile onto the Superstition Freeway. Bombasino was found hanging out of the driver's side door, his clothes incinerated. The message was clear. Jackie Cerrone, who had been released from Leavenworth in 1973, had settled the score. The Bombasino bombing became the gruesome birth certificate of the formal witness security program, WITSEC, we know today. By the late 1970s, Cerone was the underboss to Joseph Dove's Aiuppa. Together, they oversaw the golden age of the Las Vegas skim. Using millions in loans from the Teamster Central States Pension Fund, the outfit bought the Stardust and Fremont casinos. Every month, bagmen transported hundreds of thousands of dollars in untaxed cash from the casino counting rooms back to Chicago. But the FBI was watching. In the Strawman case of 1986, the leadership of the Chicago, Kansas City, and Milwaukee families were all indicted. Cerone and Aiuppa were convicted of skimming $2 million and sentenced to nearly 30 years in prison. In January 1986, just before he was sent away, Cerone attended one last high-level meeting at the Czech Lodge in North Riverside. There, Tony Accardo appointed Joseph Ferriola as the new street boss. It was the end of the Aiuppa-Cerone administration. Jackie Cerrone's final years were spent in federal custody. He was released in July 1996, suffering from a chronic heart ailment. He didn't enjoy his freedom for long. Just 6 days after his release, on July 26, 1996, Jackie the Lackey Cerrone died of natural causes in Barrington, Illinois, at the age of 82. From a sixth grade dropout to the architect of a multi-million-dollar criminal empire, Cerrone's life was a testament to the brutal, adaptive power of the Chicago outfit. He began as a driver and ended as a boss, leaving a legacy of blood, betting slips, and a code of silence that took the FBI decades to break. So goes the story of Jackie Cerrone. Cerrone's death in 1996 marked the closing of a significant chapter in American organized crime history. The Lackey moniker, once a sign of his humble beginnings, had become an ironic title for one of the most powerful and effective mob bosses in the history of the Chicago outfit. As the syndicate continues to operate in its current more diminished form, the figure of Jackie Cerrone remains a central reference point for understanding the heights of power and the eventual legal reckoning that defined the 20th century Chicago Mafia. Cerrone's story is a reminder that the outfit was never just a gang, it was a shadow government, a parallel economy, and a cultural force that for decades exerted an outsized influence on the city of Chicago and the nation at large. And in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on Jackie Cerrone. I'm James Jenkins. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this episode on the Lackey, you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe to the channel, share, and look out for another episode of James on the Mob. And remember, life is short, so don't whack it off. See yous.